You know, we hear the words developing or developed thrown around all the time when we talk about countries. And usually, it all boils down to one thing: money, right? A booming economy. But is that really the whole story? Today, we're going to dig into a simple but honestly a really powerful question. Is more money the same thing as more progress?
All right, so let's just jump right in. Forget about data for a second. I want you to do something for me. When I say the word progress or development, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it all gleaming skyscrapers and six-lane highways, or is it maybe something totally different?
Because, you see, progress can look like this: a totally vibrant, buzzing street scene, just packed with life and business. But then again, it can also look like this: a shiny new high-rise building casting this long shadow over a slum right next door. And the wild thing is, these two realities often exist in the exact same city, sometimes on the very same block. That alone tells you that development, well, it's not some simple one-size-fits-all concept.
Okay, so if we really want to get a handle on what development means for a whole country, maybe we need to zoom in a bit. Let's start smaller, at the individual level. What does progress actually mean to different people?
All right, just check out this table for a second. For a landless, rural worker, development might just mean having more days of work and a decent school for their kids. Simple, right? But for a well-off farmer, it's totally different. They're thinking about better prices for their crops, maybe sending their children to study overseas. And what about a girl from a rich city family? For her, progress could mean having the exact same freedom her brother gets. And for a tribal person, an Adivasi, it might mean none of that. It might be all about protecting their ancestral land and their way of life. Now here's the thing. Every single one of these is a valid goal. But they're not just different. Sometimes they're completely at odds with each other. And this is where things get really messy. Because these goals don't just exist side by side, all peaceful-like. No way. Sometimes they are in direct conflict. This quote here just hits the nail on the head. What may be development for one may not be development for the other. It may even be destructive for the other. One person's huge leap forward can be another person's complete and utter disaster.
Let's make this real. Imagine a massive new dam is being built. To an industrialist, that dam is the poster child for development. It means more electricity, it means more factories, more jobs. But what about the tribal communities who've lived on that land for generations? For them, that same dam is just destruction. Their homes will be flooded, their land is gone forever. So you see, progress for one group is absolute devastation for another.
So, if everyone's idea of progress is so different, and sometimes even clashing, how on earth do you measure national development? Well, for a long time, the go-to answer has been to just simplify things. Boil it all down to one single number that's supposed to capture the whole story: average income.
And the main tool for this is something called per capita income. The idea itself is pretty straightforward. You just take a country's total income for the year, all the money it makes, and divide it by the total population. What you get is the average income for one person. And, I mean, on the surface, that kind of makes sense. More money equals more development, right?
But what if it's too simple? Let's do a little thought experiment. Imagine two countries, country A and country B. Now, in country A, the money is spread out pretty fairly. Everyone's doing okay. But in country B, you've got 4 people who are dirt poor and 1 person who is unbelievably rich. And here's the kicker. If you actually do the math, both countries have the exact same average income, $10,000.
Okay, so here's the question for you. If you had to be born in one of these countries, but you had no idea which citizen you were going to be, it's a total lottery, which country would you choose to live in? I'm guessing most of us, if not all of us, would pick country A, for sure. Why? Because your chances of having a decent life are way higher. In country B, you have a 4 out of 5 shot at being incredibly poor.
And right there, that's the giant glaring flaw with using only averages. Per capita income, it's like looking at just the very tip of an iceberg. It gives you one neat little number, but it completely hides the massive, dangerous reality of inequality, the real story that's lurking just beneath the surface.
All right, so that was just a made-up example, a thought experiment. But does this problem with averages actually play out in the real world? Well, let's find out. We're going to put this whole income equals development theory to the test using some real-world data from 3 states in India.
Okay, first up, let's just look at the money, pure and simple. This chart shows the per capita income for Haryana, Kerala, and Bihar. And you can see Haryana is way ahead of the pack.
It's the clear winner in the income race. Kerala comes in second, and Bihar is a distant third.
So, if we're only looking at this number, the conclusion seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? Haryana, with the most money, has to be the most developed state of the three. Case closed, right?
Well, hold on. Let's add a couple more columns to this table, things that measure, quality of life. Let's start with infant mortality. And whoa, okay, look at this. Kerala, the state with less money, has an infant mortality rate of just 6 per 1,000. Wealthier Haryana, its rate is more than 4 times higher. Now let's look at literacy. Kerala is at 94%, Haryana is at 82%. All of a sudden, that simple picture we had of development is getting completely flipped on its head.
So let's just lay it out side by side. Haryana has the higher income, but Kerala has the lower infant mortality and the higher literacy rate. This isn't a thought experiment anymore. This is a powerful, real-world example that absolutely shatters the simple idea that more money automatically equals a better quality of life.
So what in the world is going on here? How is it possible for a wealthier state to be falling so far behind in these incredibly important areas? Well, this gets us to our final and maybe our most important point. There are limits to what money can buy.
It really all comes down to a simple truth. The cash you have in your pocket, it just can't buy you all the things you need to live a good life. It's a powerful tool, don't get me wrong, but it has some very real limits.
I mean, think about it for a second. Can your personal income buy you a pollution-free environment to live in? Can it, on its own, guarantee that the medicine you buy at the pharmacy is safe and not counterfeit? Can it protect your entire community from an infectious disease? Of course not. These require everyone to work together. They require public services, good infrastructure, things that benefit the whole community, not just one person.
And that's exactly what the data from Kerala is showing us. They've clearly made public health and education a priority for everyone. And the result is a higher quality of life, even though their average income isn't the highest. So we're starting to get a much richer, more complete picture here. True development isn't just about income. Look, money is important. Of course it is. But so is health. So is education. And so is living in a society where everybody has a fair shot.
Which kind of brings us full circle, right back to where we started, but now with a completely different perspective. We've seen that what progress means to one person can be totally different for another. We've seen how simple averages can be incredibly misleading. And we've seen that money on its own just isn't enough. So the big question we want to leave you with is this. If we can't just count the money, then how should we measure progress? What are the things that really matter when we talk about building a better world? Now that is something we're thinking about.